All right, it's 1 o'clock Eastern, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And then Amanda, if you can just let people in as they come, and I want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions and self-directed learning as well. Right now, we've got Pam and Lauren on. I'm going to just run through a couple of quick slides, and then I'll dive right in if that's okay with you. So my name is Molly Yanus. I'm the founder of Echo Consulting, and we're a project management solutions company. Today, we're going to be talking about Smartsheet, and I happen to be certified, and we do about, I don't know, I think we've done about 35 different Smartsheet solutions Smartsheet solutions this year. And so we're going to be sharing some of kind of the gotchas, lessons learned, and some of the new stuff that's coming out from Smartsheet that we're really excited about. But we'll have lots of time for questions if people have jumped in and have an example that they want to talk through as well. For Echo Consulting, project management that fits. So we're spending a lot of time right now really working with teams and organizations that are trying to, we say ditch the chaos, find your groove, but really it's that combination of people, process, and technology to create a solution that really is more transparent, improves the accountability, removes friction on your team. And so if you've heard of PPT before, we talk a lot about that. Specifically with Smartsheet today, I'm going to start with core. So really what the functionality is that you get if you just get their main licensing package. And I'll just touch on a couple of the things which they call as part of their advanced, which are add-ons. So I do have a couple of notes that I'll mention on Control Center, Dynamic View, and Data Shuttle that they've made. I probably won't get into resource management, brand folder, and bridge and things like that as much. Although if people have specific questions that they want to answer, that they want to talk about, I'm happy to spend time at the end of the day today talking through those specific examples. But I'll start with kind of Smartsheet core. For Smartsheet, this is the visual that they provide of all the different things that they do, right? So they talk about Smartsheet for project management, and then they also talk about Smartsheet for marketing. And then they kind of break it down into different concepts. So process management versus portfolio management. They've added a lot in their governance to kind of have insights on the people that are using it and how they're using it. And then they're adding more and more every day about their data connectivity and data connections. They have these are both acquisitions that joined the Smartsheet team specifically for digital asset management and resource management. And then when you think about Smartsheet kind of core platform, these are some of the key value adds that they talk about. And so definitely visibility rolling up across multiple task automation, no code work apps, and project management. When they think about integrations, they're building out more and more every day. They have what they call Bridge, which is their integrator, but then they also have some built-out integrations that you can purchase specifically for Jira, Salesforce, etc. And then they also have some more like task-specific ones with Microsoft and Google and things like that, and Slack in terms of notifications and pieces like that. A lot of our clients right now, Smartsheet does have dashboarding capabilities. We'll talk about some of the improvements to the Smartsheet dashboarding program today, but we are finding a lot of our larger clients that are integrating with Power BI and Tableau for more granular visualizations and honestly like a more robust business intelligence view. In addition to the software platform and connectivity that they have, they also do offer professional services, pro desk support, and they have a training program that they have. So this is the way that Smartsheet describes their platform. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and get right into the demo if that's okay with you. Before I dive into the platform, I always try to get people to where they can find their own information. So Smartsheet has been really good recently, definitely over the last year and a half, with providing regular product news and updates. So if you I'll go ahead and send the link here to the chat. but you can go ahead and get notified of their product release notes, and you can get updates right here. What I like is that more recently they've given you the ability to actually filter down the types of changes that they are making to the platform, which I find really helpful. So some of our clients have their advanced, have their add-ons and things like that, and some of them just have core. So a lot of our smaller businesses just have Smartsheet core. So it's nice to be able to filter down and only see the changes that have been released to this. You can go ahead and kind of link in here. So for example, on their core, they did roll out Microsoft Teams, consolidation and permissioning and things like that. The biggest change that they made over the last year, if you're a Smartsheet user, is the ability to change column names without disrupting reports. So we'll just show that again today because it's really critical that we understand how that works and how to clean up your sheets for roll up. Let's see here. And then the one other thing that I like to mention before I dive right in is, unfortunately, like all software platforms, Smartsheet does experience intermittent, issues or something like that. You want to make sure that you can see when something is down. Hold on one second, sorry guys. 'Tis the season for the cough. And so oftentimes, right, I want to be able to see, let's see here. I forget off the top of my head what it is because I get the notifications. Status. So you can actually go into, and anytime, so honestly, if you're not a Smartsheet client or a Smartsheet user already, it's really important to think about when you're evaluating software. One of the things I like to do is actually go and look at their incident history and their status to see what their uptime is. So it's not just what their SLA is saying 99.9, but like how many issues have they actually had and how do you see the visibility and how quickly do they make any updates if something comes up. So here, there is a Smartsheet status page that is always available. And if anything comes up, you can see the specifics of what it is, what is impacted by it. But what's really nice is you can see kind of what their past incidents are and what they were. And Smartsheet is pretty good about updating and telling you how often they're going to update if anything happens. So you can see here kind of what their most recent incidents are. And I would say that they're actually pretty good. And again, you can subscribe to those updates. So if you are considering, picking a software, one of the things I like to do is look at their status page and look at their history. All right. Before I jump in, it looks like I only have 2 of you guys on today, which is great. No worries. If you have specific areas that you want to focus on or questions or things like that, and you're not comfortable just, reaching your hand up, feel free to put them in chat and Amanda will, call it out. But I'm going to show a couple of things to kind of get us started, if that's okay. Right? All right. So one of the things I want to mention is that at Echo, we believe, don't start from scratch. So one of the things that we oftentimes recommend for teams that are newer or even teams that are building like new solutions within a platform they already have is check out the templates. Even if you don't want to start from the template and you don't want to use it, I always recommend checking them out because they'll give you good ideas. Honestly, one of my teammates earlier this week was telling me that they had this new SteerCo committee dashboard that they needed, SteerCo dashboard. And she was asking me for examples from other clients that we've used. And what I was explaining is that honestly, it's great to have an example within Smartsheet templates, but half the time, I'll be honest, if I'm doing a new dashboard and I'm looking for some new ideas, I honestly Google it. I'm going to be honest, like I do Google. And so in her case, I just said like, honestly, steering committee dashboards. And when I do that, I look at images or I can look at templates and I can start to get some ideas here. So I do have a pretty, if you know my team, like I don't like to be asked questions that, you can Google and figure it out in the top 3 results. If you're looking for ideas and things like that, you don't have to limit yourself to Smartsheet or Monday or any platform that you're using or Power BI. Start by just getting some ideas of what they're looking for. So I'm not going to talk too much about design and everything like that, but but definitely we want to think about personas, but I like to start from what are the templates that are available and Steerco. And one of the things I will mention for Smartsheet, in addition to having all of these different template sets and they have different versions of dashboards, and I'll show you kind of searching, you actually, Smartsheet also has a dashboard library. So Smartsheet, or gallery, sorry, where they're going to be adding more and more examples of dashboards. So there's not a ton right now, but I like to start from the templates. But if you're looking for some new ideas, they're starting to add more information about different types of dashboards and things like that that you can get right here as well. So again, very Googleable for Smartsheet. So let me go back here again. So one of the things that Smartsheet has done in their solution center is they're really trying to direct people here more. It's actually annoying to me, but I'll show you kind of what I mean by this. So if I am in a report or in a sheet and I want to create something new, when I go ahead and create new, it's taking me directly to the solution set instead of what I'm expecting to see, which is, am I creating a new sheet, form, report, dashboard, etc. So I am definitely finding myself learning to navigate because they keep driving people to their templates so that they're not starting from scratch. Even though me as a developer, a person that's constantly making new things, like I am wanting to start from a sheet when I do create new. One of the things I like about their template set now is that you can start looking at, like, you're able to narrow it down. So if you don't have resource management or you don't have calendar app, you can filter it out to only look at this. They have added back their older templates as well, just because people were complaining because some people use their regular template sets all the time. From an Echo perspective, we are going to be releasing more videos now, starting from specific template sets, just to get people going a little bit faster. So the one that we use oftentimes is the project management office one, but we've had a lot of requests recently for events as well. So like event management. And just so you know, a lot of these ones now, Smartsheet's actually allowing outside users to add new templates. So this is important because we already have this with some of our other tools that we use, like Miro, even Jira, and even Microsoft, right? They have their own app store where they allow developers to give different template sets. Smartsheet is moving in that direction. And so for some of these, when you click on the templates, they'll actually say, here, see how it says contact our implementation services, because they have their own, implementation services. They'll actually start having branding of some of the partners and some of the developers that use this. One of the things with templates I want to make sure that everyone knows is that it does tell you what the different components are that you're going to need in order to have this template set. So something to consider as well is the setup information to know kind of what pieces. So if you have resource management or don't, or have calendar app or don't, those are important things to consider when you have this. All right. With that, let me go back to a couple of the reporting changes that have been made that make me very happy. And then Lauren and Pam, are you guys, or you can mention it in chat, but are you guys already Smartsheet users? You guys already have Smartsheet? Okay, excellent. So one of the things that has happened most recently is the ability to do the browse concept. So if I am, let's see here. So one of the things Echo used is, like, as we were doing smart dashboard things, it's just a dashboard. They have this new workspace panel that is different than kind of their older version of their browse. And you can only see it if you go into a specific workspace. And it's providing users, like, with a little bit more specific navigation kind of ability. They've also added some abilities like within here as well. One of the things that gets confusing with this, it kind of is a slide out. But if you want to be able to move things like drag and drop and some of the other stuff that you're used to be able to do in browse, you do need to open it up in browse. So if you're trying to move things around, you want to be in browse. But you are able to also create and share. So they're kind of starting to add some new navigation and favoriting and things like that over on this panel here. I want to go ahead and create new report. Actually, let me use an existing report that we already have. So if I go into the Echo workspace and I pull a report that I'm using, they added a couple of new functionality pieces to reports. So one of them is they added some additional connectivity among their different add-ons. So for dynamic view, you can now go ahead and pull the dynamic views that are coming from this report or create a dynamic view. Dynamic view is an add-on. I don't know, Lauren and Pam, if you guys have the add-ons with Smartsheet or not, but if you do, they're going to start seeing more connectivity here. Other one is data table as well. So you'll see within their main navigation, they're starting to call out data table more and work apps more here as well. But even within individual reports, they're going ahead and highlighting data view. And one of the things I love about that, let me go back here and show you. So dynamic view, when you're managing dynamic view as well as some of their other add-ons like calendar view, they are also allowing some additional governance that comes in to be able to transition ownership, which previously was an issue that was kind of limiting in terms of the scalability to have multiple editors and things like that. So you'll see a couple of different things here. One is that they're starting to add I do not think the dynamic view takes a lot of admin time to maintain, but let's just do a really quick one together. So if you create a view, in this case, it's pulling from a report. Typically, I do recommend, if you can, pulling a data view from a report. And the reason why is because the source sheet or report can't change within a data view. So Lauren, if you start building out something on a sheet and then you end up wanting to have multiple different sheets, you can't do that. Like you end up having to make a new data view or a dynamic view rather. So what I say is like, even if you're only gonna have a single sheet that pulls into the report, I typically make my source sheet a report so that I can make changes in that report and it updates the dynamic view based on that. So that's just kind of like a tip here. So one of the things that they added in dynamic view, which is really important, is that you now have the ability to restrict the view by filters. So this is a brand new functionality they didn't have before. So you always had the option to do it based on the contact columns or make everything visible. And you could just basically do the filters on the report itself. Now, any filters that exist on the sheets, you can actually go ahead and do that based on that. So it's very, very, very helpful for our teams if you want to be able to say, for example, only client facing or something like that. You have the ability to create based on those filters. We had already kind of done the workaround by always having the report itself be the source instead of the sheet, but this is more functionality that's available. One of the big things, Lauren, is the ability, whether you add a new submission or not. So if you think about it, if you add a new row on a sheet, you usually do it via a form or manually. With dynamic view, it's basically like a report, but you can add a new item for a submission. The only thing with that is it gets more complicated, right? If it is a report that has multiple different data sheets. So Echo's built out some solutions where you can kind of pull into one sheet and then use move row functionality to move it. But that's one piece. When you go to move the next one, the view display, if you're familiar with calendar app or something like that, or form even, the view display is the ability to see what fields show up and whether or not users can add attachments or everything, all within a single view. So it has a lot more functionality than reports. The most typical use case for dynamic view is for our clients that are using it for external vendors or for suppliers or clients or something like that that don't want to have to log into Smartsheet, but they do want to be able to add net new rows or make updates without having to go into that specific report. So that's kind of that big piece. So the first one for dynamic view is permissioning. So permissioning by specific criteria versus being able to see everything in a sheet or everything in a report. And then the secondary piece is the ability to add new and or make updates without logging into Smartsheet. Okay. So same concept here as if you were like adding columns into a report, right? You can add multiple components here. You can either display comments and attachments or not. And then you can kind of reorder how you want this to look like, very similar to a report. But the magic panel, the magic component of it is being able to go to the details panel. And this feels more like the form ability, right? Because you can go ahead and pick an item that might only have in a report, just have like the name, the assigned to, and the health. But if they click on it, it opens up the panel that might have 15 or 20 different fields on it instead of just what's showing up in the report. So we kind of work around this anyways with our reports, just kind of having the first 4 columns be the columns that you want to show on a dashboard. And then if you click on it, it has additional columns horizontally. What's nice about Dynamic View is you open up an item and it becomes a vertical kind of form-like view that you update. And for each different field here, you can make the field be required or read-only or hidden. You can have additional information about this. Additionally, they do have, the field logic that you're used to with a form as well. So it's a combination of that form functionality and that report functionality. Does that make sense? One of the things is you can save as new. So you can create a copy of a dynamic view, which wasn't always the case. The only thing I would just say here is that the data source remains the same. So this isn't as great if you're trying to scale it out for multiple different portfolios and programs. You do end up needing to build from scratch because you can't change the report or the sheet that you are pulling from. Does that make sense? So it does still have some things that you need to do. If I were to click on an item, it pulls out here. You can embed this within a dashboard so that you can make those changes right within the dashboard. Okay. And then the one other thing here is like you can have the filters that you can add filters and everything like that. You can wrap the text. So with reports, if you remember, like you can only, the text only wraps like if you are actually like wrapped in the sheet itself or the size of the sheet or the conditional formatting and things like that. Dynamic View lets you have a little bit more of that permissioning. Okay. All right, I'm going to go back. Let me just remind myself really quick. So I want to go back to product releases. All righty. Huge for our clients that are using Calendar app. Are you familiar with Calendar app, Pam? Do you guys have Advance? You do? Okay. So this was huge, especially as a consultant team that honestly makes a lot of these calendars. We can now transfer the admin for users that maybe have left. So this was really, we ran into this a couple of different times. You can only have a single person update the calendar app, but now the admin from a governance standpoint can transfer the calendar app, which is really important, even if someone's on vacation or leave or something like that. Has been really important. And then whether or not calendars are published is also a functionality that we have here at the global admin. So Smartsheet has been doing a lot of work and will continue to do work for some of their enterprise clients. I think they've just boasted they had their Q3 earnings and they have 90% of the Fortune 100 companies. They're being driven by their enterprise clients to have much more in terms of security as well as global admin capabilities. Their relationship with Microsoft is also getting closer. And so they're also having being pushed in that direction. So it's really awesome. One of the things that you'll see, we actually have a client right now that's struggling with this. Smartsheet's starting to do, if you have enterprise licensing, you're probably familiar with the concept that you can have unlimited free users. Smartsheet is now starting to pull the metrics associated with connected users. So how many people are actually logging in? How many people are actually utilizing the pieces? And so we're starting to get pushback from Smartsheet with teams that have connected users that maybe don't have enough licensing. So I would anticipate over the next year that you're going to see them definitely looking at a usage metric in addition to pure licensing because we're starting to see them go that way. So just a couple of different things there. Um, We've been doing a couple of different things. This is from a core app standpoint, so mail to links on dashboards. So within the rich text editor within a dashboard, and I'll show you guys this in a second, it didn't used to be clickable. And so if you had like a link to a user, we've always used the contact field for that in terms of metrics, but now you can go ahead and add actual links and mail to from here. So this is important if you're using client contacts that might not be in Smartsheet as contacts, and or if you're doing a project team that isn't in Smartsheet, but you want to be able to list, to be able to have that clickable right from there. That was actually, it feels like a silly little thing, but it really was a huge, powerful item for people that were using project team members as part of that. One of the things in Control Center, again, Control Center is an add-on, but Control Center had an archive flow. But if you were to create test projects or need to over update that, it was really difficult to go ahead and delete that without like archiving it or something like that. And so now the delete flow is much easier. So I'm going to go talk about some of the dashboard updates now, and really talk about some of the things that we're loving on dashboards. That's okay. Here we go. So we're going to create new. All right. So for dashboard, you'll notice that they now have widgets. If you haven't done this recently, you guys do have the ability to brand things now, widget backgrounds and background colors. You're going to see more coming this direction as well for branding, because you are going to be able to enforce branding on dashboards, which we're really excited about. Next up, we're going to go ahead and talk about the report widget piece here. So with adding a report, I'll just do a change log report. One of the things that we're going to be able to start doing is having reports that are actually going to be in the in a in a card view instead of in a grid view. So if I go ahead and open up the changelog report, I'm going to show you guys what I mean by this. Mm. While I'm here, I'll show you the additional search capabilities. So when I'm searching now, I can go ahead and narrow it down, and if I only want to look at sheets instead of looking at specific rows. So before with the search, it was difficult if I wanted to look up changelog, for example, to see where that was coming from. I can also narrow it down to a specific workspace, and this updates, the location updates based on what I've already selected so far. So this can be really helpful if you're looking for a specific thing. This was something that was causing a lot of, honestly, just wasted time when you're trying to connect things here. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. So my change request log here, let me go to a report. So I'm going to select report instead. So now I have change log and I'm only looking at reports. So I can now pull it. It's coming from my sheets, for example. And in this change log, see how it's showing up as grid view right now? I can actually switch this to card view. And so I'm going to go ahead and save that for now. When I go back to here and I'm going to go ahead and refresh, the report itself, if it's saved in card view, can now be used in the card view format instead. And of course, it's not going to update quickly because I just did this. But while I'm doing this other thing, I'm going to show you something else as well. So also in the reports, one of the things that we like to do is in our charts, in our sorry guys, let me just pull from an existing one that we already have. Alrighty. So I'll go back to our old dashboard. So this is an old dashboard that we had for 2022 goals dashboard for the team, and we're pulling this in. And when you go ahead and you edit, one of the things that we struggled with is when we were branding different dashboards, making sure that the colors stayed the same, even if we changed. So one of the things you'll notice is that in almost all of our health dashboard widgets, we would always have to keep green, red, and yellow, because if we ever had a project that didn't have that color, right, showing up, then when you had it show back up on the chart, it would end up showing up a different color. So we would end up having a yellow that ended up being blue. That was resolved recently. You now have the ability to go ahead and see all of the series, even if they don't exist, and it'll keep the color for that series. So there's just some like dashboarding pieces that were obvious, but that Smartsheet really needed to get better at. We ended up doing a lot of workarounds with our formulas to have like 0.001s or something like that, so that we would be able to keep our green, yellow, and red so that it wouldn't get switched if we wanted to change the colors. So that has been resolved recently, which was a really important one. And then the other piece is something that we've been struggling with the team is for widget behavior for charts. When someone clicks this widget, you have that take no action, open the data source, open a Smartsheet item, or open another site. So one of the important things that we have from a usability standpoint is if you are making it clickable and you're pulling from a report that maybe only has a couple of different columns, or maybe it's a metric sheet in a metric piece, making sure that you open up to a different Smartsheet item. And then the other piece I wanted to call out here is nope, that's not it. Have you guys been able to make charts off of reports based on the summary piece? Is everyone familiar with that? Are you guys both familiar with that? Okay, excellent. Pam, you know how to do that? I won't go into that then for right now. One of the big things, just from a because again, we usually use like a Power BI and Tableau. So the ability to move around multiple different widgets at the same time has been a big piece that we've been able to do. Also the ability to copy and paste. One of the things that we haven't been able to do yet, which we are looking and it's on Smartsheet's roadmap, is the ability to copy across. So I know, for example, we just had a client with a portfolio where we have updates to all their different BU dashboards in a quick links piece, and we have that on the CIO dashboard as well as on like the PMO intake dashboard and things like that. And so we are hoping to see that in the next 6 months from Smartsheet to be able to copy widgets across dashboards, not just moving them within a single dashboard. Okay. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. Any issues that you guys are having on dashboards, or anything that you're being asked to complete that you're struggling with that you want to bring up at this point? If you want to go ahead and add something like, so again, the add-ons for Smartsheet, the ones we use most often are honestly Control Center as well as Dynamic View in terms of what's actually seen by the end user, and then obviously Control Center for portfolios. But if you want to embed a calendar or dynamic view, you have to do it on the web content widget, just to make sure you understand. So making sure that you go ahead and just add that embed code from the calendar app or the dynamic view. Let's see here. There haven't been any major changes in the functionality of the calendar app. Let me go here. But the new transfer button is the piece that people are all excited about. But in terms of the actual functionality, this has not had any major changes in the last 6 months. And the big piece with Calendar app, we love Calendar app for especially for executive views. But one of the things I'll just mention with this one is it's not compatible right now with Control Center. So if you go ahead and want to use this for every single one of your projects, every single your programs, just be aware you have to create a calendar for each one of those. So one of the things that we do, right, is making sure that you can transfer and things like that, making sure that you know how to collapse and not for some of the different views. And you can go ahead and refresh the information. You can open the underlying sheet. Some of the settings and everything you can now pull right from here that we like to look at. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and X out of that.
Do you know if Calendar app, if they have it on their roadmap to sync that with Microsoft Outlook?
I know they've been asking about that for a while. We literally have 2 clients on this. So, you know, you have the Outlook add-in to the Smartsheet add-in to Outlook, right, Lauren?
I believe I do.
Yeah.
I
So
believe.
don't look at my horrible inbox, guys, but my let's see here. Okay, let's just look at this. So Smartsheet has an add-on to Outlook, which allows you to sync things from Outlook into Smartsheet. So Lauren, what I'm hearing is that they're going to have things from Smartsheet to add to Outlook versus or like to open up like in Outlook instead of like a full sync from Calendar app over. So assume that the synchronization is going to come from the core before it goes from to the calendar. And so what I mean by that is if you go into a sheet and you have the calendar view via the sheet, that's where I think that they're heading. Let me look at. I think it's fine. Oh yeah, it's fine. Oh, the joys. Let me just X out of this. Delete. Um, And so if I come here and I click on project list, for example, and I look at the calendar view, I believe what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to send this to Outlook, right? So it's going to be more of a triggered situation from the actual calendar versus calendar app, which is an add-on, which is separated. So this is where I think that they're focusing their effort on synchronization. And I believe it's going to be like you're going to be able to do it. So think about the same functionality that you have in Outlook right now, which is to take Outlook and like link it into something in Smartsheet. You're going to have Smartsheet and be able to put it into there. But from here, I'm not sure about the automations because that's what we really want to be able to do is automate sending this right over. And so anticipate that it's going to be manual first. But yes, that is on. And you guys know, you guys can see the enhancement request for Smartsheet. You guys are aware of that, right? Okay, you guys are both nodding. Okay, so enhancement requests and the community and voting and things like that. So this is the big one, and they have been so much more. Honestly, they've been so much more responsive. They have people like full time in their Smartsheet community now, which has been huge. So I would say that we've even been advising our clients that no offense to their support, but sometimes their support is not as fast as we would like to, especially for some of our enterprise clients. So we've honestly found more responsiveness in their community sometimes than their actually support. So especially if you actually understand Smartsheet and like understand formulas or automations and things like that, giving specific examples in here and the better you do at actually framing up what the use case is, the more likely that they're going to put the information in because they have a brand new marketing person and they really are focusing on getting good. So if you ask a question in a way that is like well documented and very logical, you're more likely to get an answer because they're trying to generate that content. So I would just say that the use of their community, they've really stepped it up. It's been very responsive. They have full-time people on it now, which they didn't before. And they're also incentivizing partners based on people that are responsive here. So Microsoft does that, SAP does that, several other enterprise softwares incentivize partners to respond. And Smartsheet is moving in that direction as well. So I think the community is going to become more and more powerful. But I would just, where was I going with this? Yeah, so you can do enhancements here, and then they'll respond on enhancements, which ones are coming up. So even though you guys don't have that product roadmap other than just engage in what they've shared kind of publicly, they will announce when these different components are coming and when they're expecting them to. And so that's actually the best, most up-to-date way to know where things are happening. Okay. Where was I going? Are you guys familiar with data table? Are you using data table now? Okay, so you may have heard Smartsheet has a limitation in terms of a number of rows, and they have limitations in terms of a number of columns and number of connections and links and everything like that. Smartsheet updated their kind of infrastructure underneath their platform. And so part of that is they kind of, I call this like the canary, the gopher, etc. They created data table with the ability to have that 2 million rows instead of the 14,000. And so they've been kind of like testing this concept out. But I would say we've used this for several clients, specifically clients that were looking to pull, for example, time entries from resource management, or they have like a product log that's, you know, a million different product SKUs or something like that, like something that they need to reference for data that Smartsheet can't currently manage because of the row limitation, connecting into data table instead. Has been a super powerful use case. But I would say that it's been limited so far because a lot of them, if they can, try to keep the data within the data source record. So if they can integrate with their ERP, they can do that. But with ones that can't and they're looking for a quick solution, data table now offers that reference sheet that you weren't able to have before if you were limited by those number of rows. One of the updates that Smartsheet has is, I think previously it was like 250 columns. They are moving to 400 columns. So that's been helpful for some of our clients that do multi-year and multi-weeks, do weekly updates like in a horizontal way and need to have a 3-year view. So the additional columns is very helpful. All right. I'm trying to think what else on my list I had to review today. Let's see here. Have you guys tried the desktop app? Smartsheet desktop app having multiple tabs. So that's something that some people love and some people don't. So I think I have my Smartsheet. Oh, this is the new computer, so I actually don't have it right now. That's too bad. We can do it right now. It's pretty quick. I would say the ability to open up tabs and things like that has been my, but it doesn't give me, so if you think about Microsoft, you have some additional functionality in the desktop app that you don't have in browser. Smartsheet has actually done that opposite. So I would say I have more functionality in the browser than desktop. But for people that aren't necessarily building and instead are just using, the desktop actually is actually nicer. So I would say for it's the opposite, right? So for developers, I would say it's better in the browser than it is in the desktop app. But if you have executive stakeholders, people that are not building but are using the same things over and over again, I would say that the ability to use the desktop app has been really helpful for them from an adoption standpoint. So depending on the different, you know, personas, your users, and who you're trying to get to adopt it, I would say that definitely for some of our newer clients that are using it with their VPs, et cetera, we have been promoting the desktop app because they're more used to that concept of clicking on Smartsheet and having exactly what they're looking right there. All right, let's see here. What else do I wanted to review here? If you guys both have enterprise, I can pull up the admin and show some of those new ones there. None of these are super exciting. So,
Can I ask a question about like what you'd recommend for a best practice?
yes, please.
So it's sort of not technical probably, but I'm doing project management for our brand, and we have people from like could write code to people who like, computers, man, difficult. So I'm just
Mhm.
trying to figure out. So Smartsheet is where I'm like building all my project plans and I'm using that project portfolio template and everything's great. But for meeting notes and other like digital things that I need to store, I'm actually storing that in SharePoint and then I'm publishing plans from Smartsheet to SharePoint and I hate it. And I'm just not sure, but not everyone has a license, right? So that's why I'm publishing, and I don't want them to have to sign into Smartsheet because that's difficult if you're not good with a computer. What do you recommend?
So, it depends on the team and what they're looking for. So we definitely have clients that are still using SharePoint and or DocBox, like Dropbox, like other sort of document management systems or asset management systems in addition to Smartsheet. For our specific like portfolio management and PMO solution, we oftentimes use what we call a CRADE log, and we actually encourage meeting notes to happen within the sheet. And the way we get around logging in, Lauren, is publishing dashboards. So that for people that need to be able to put it there, they can see that information like via a published dashboard link. So that's kind of the way that we do that. But if they need to be able to edit things, yes, that is something that they need to log into. So we have meeting notes and like we actually, one of our clients, it's like a large insurance company, and they have about 400 different users, and they have a specific sheet within the project toolkit, like the project like piece that is for meeting notes. So they didn't fully adopt CRADE for changes, risks, action, issues, decisions, but they actually have meeting notes. And so they say what meeting it is, what the date of the meeting is, who the attendees are. So they literally have a meeting log that they use. And then they pull that information into a dashboard that is published. So that is there. And then in terms of the meeting, they're actually using, mentions and things like that back and forth in terms of meeting notes. So they tag people on the meeting notes instead of sending an email or something like that. They're actually mentioning them on the row that has those components. For that specific client, the big issue with meeting notes in Smartsheet was bullets. So we actually just barely did like a quick training. We need to do a short on it of just how to do bullets in Smartsheet. Do you guys know how to do bullets in Smartsheet? Okay, Amanda, can you just pull that really quick? I just forget off the top of my head. But you can actually, that was the big thing, which is like, we're not going to do meeting notes because we need bullets and it doesn't look good and everything like that. And so that was the big thing. So
So they don't have a secure, like I'm worried about publishing and I'm doing it, but I'm
yeah.
hiding things. But I'm worried from a security perspective of like that link is anyone in the world can hit that and have access to our information if they have the link, which the link is only published on SharePoint. But like, what's stopping someone who wants to do something malicious from sending it out to our competitor? I guess, is that not a
Yeah.
concern for that company?
Well, they're an insurance company, so they definitely have that concern. But in the admin center now, they do have the ability for multiple different domain management, Lauren. So you do have some additional capabilities that you didn't have before, even like within that. Let me just think if I can remember that off the top of my head. I think it's called domain safe sharing list. What was it? Um, um, One second. There's something I can probably follow up with you on this, but um huh. How do we do this? I forget. Let
Right
me
now, I'm just
follow.
hiding names. So, like, I feel like as long as no one's name is on the sheet and there's nothing brand specific, like I'm just being very generic, I'm okay. But it's just inconvenient, as you know, to
Oh
have
yeah.
like
Yeah, yeah.
17 places. I'm running out of bandwidth to keep updating people and tailoring things to people's computer skills.
Yeah. Um okay. let me think about this. I can double check with that specific one. They are publishing, but what they might be doing, Lauren, is they might be publishing the sheet on the dashboard, if that makes sense. So they don't have access, they publish the report on the dashboard. So it's not removing the need to log in, if I remember correctly, but it's removing the need to have permission to the specific components, I think is what they were looking for. So they did published like sheets with components like on a dashboard that they all had access to, if I remember correctly. The other piece is, but that requires login, is making it specific to their permissions, right? Like within the dashboard is the other workaround. But specific, let me go back to your original question. So your original question is, you have meeting notes that are being managed on SharePoint, not in Smartsheet. And the reason why you have meeting notes in SharePoint and not Smartsheet is because you have users that are not comfortable in Smartsheet. Is that correct? And they're more comfortable in Word-based. And are those users expected to write the notes or comment on the notes or view the notes?
No, and actually, I'm doing it through Microsoft Loop right now. So we use Teams. I'm obsessed with Loop. I think it's fabulous. So
Yeah.
I'm using that in SharePoint because I don't have the bandwidth, or necessarily I don't think the end users have the desire to learn Loop, Smartsheet, all of that. So I'm just trying to make everything super easy for everybody. Yeah.
All right.
So
So I'm gonna
SharePoint is where I'm like, actually now I'm linking Loop items in SharePoint. So that's not the worst. It just feels hard to me.
Okay, I know this is a Smartsheet one, like a Smartsheet webinar, but something that I am super pumped about is if you guys haven't heard the Microsoft announcement that they are combining Project for the Web and Planner and to-do list all into one, and they're releasing it this spring, which means that Planner will now have notifications and dependencies. And so I'm super pumped. And they also said that they aren't doing an end of life for Project Online, which was really important for some of our other clients. So I believe that Microsoft is going to have a fully integrated mid-market project management solution like within the next year. Their initial release of Project for the Web was horrible, but like I think they'll have a competitor to Smartsheet, definitely a competitor for Monday and Asana and Teamwork within the next year, which will be very exciting for users that are familiar with Teams and are on the Microsoft stack. They don't have it yet, but definitely something to be on the lookout for as you continue to build it out. All right. I want to just follow up with you, if that's okay, Lauren, really quickly on the, I'll do that offline. We only have 7 minutes left. But I do know that they have a very similar situation, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but I'll take a look and I'll just send you a couple more bullet points on that after the fact. Pam, did you have anything that you guys are struggling with in terms of showing something that isn't working right now or that's harder for you guys to do? Any questions that you have? You're on mute.
Why would I be on mute? No, I'm good. This was just informational for me, Molly. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, no worries.
Alrighty. What else? One of the coolest new things that we're doing, and I think Lauren, like from a portfolio standpoint, so we have the project. So when we do the project solutions portfolio roll-ups, what we've been doing is, we have the project plan, we usually have a CRADE log, and then we have like metric sheets and things like that. So if you're using a template from Smartsheet, very similar. One of the things that we've been doing recently is weekly updates. We did that from a program management or monthly updates from a program management standpoint. And so it's basically a row that allows you to have like each weekly update. And it's been allowing us to show trends over time, both for how health has changed or for how budget has changed and things like that. So you're creating a new row at a point in time. And then we use a formula to say what the most recent is versus the previous so that we can show that on a dashboard. And our project managers have been loving that. And we recently rolled it out for an organization that's doing it with they call them work streams, but basically programs where they're providing an update. So whenever you're doing a dashboard, there's always a decision point about whether or not you're going to kind of do rich text on the dashboard versus using it on the sheet. But we always have that issue, which is when you overwrite something, sure, you see cell history, but you can't really like have that log of everything. But with this new solution, we call it like our weekly status update solution. There's a new row for each one. You add a new row, the formula automatically pulls what the most recent is as well as what's updated. And then we're using the document builder to actually be able to export a PDF as well. So you can do a 1-page update and pull the slide deck of kind of all of those different ones across so that you can see history as well that way. So that was one of our new kind of things that we've been doing for those weekly updates. So it can pull that information from the different components. So when you're thinking about top 3 accomplishments or let's see here, top 3 accomplishments or not percentage complete, but just kind of oftentimes like thinking about like open number of items or something like that, like you have that concept for each week and then you can see that trend analysis. And so the next piece is obviously looking at that trend analysis across projects. All right. Anything else, guys? Well, thank you for joining us, and don't hesitate to reach out. Lauren, I'll send you a quick note on just once I look at that solution to exactly see what they did. It's something to do with publishing and I think it might be published reports on a dashboard, if I remember correctly. But I love Loop, and I love where Teams continues to go. We have a lot of clients that are moving SharePoint, but like they're moving from SharePoint pages and everything onto Teams right now, and it's just so powerful. All of these low code, no code tools, really intense.
I need to talk with my boss, but that's something that, I love Smartsheet, but if we're a Microsoft shop and they're going to start doing a better job at that, then like, why am I managing multiple platforms?
They don't yet. So Microsoft
Right.
released Project for the Web, but it was
Not great.
Well, so what happened is obviously Microsoft has a 25-year history with Project, right? And Project has its own place. Like we still have construction teams that are awesome on Project. Like I'm not putting Project down, but okay, you are. That's fine. But like I've implemented Project Server. I've implemented Project Online. There is value in it, but it's just as a mid-market solution, it's not really there. It's very hard to adopt. And as you look at projects that can range anywhere from like 4 weeks to 4 years, like it really doesn't have that ability to manage like what we are normally dealing with, which is managing multiple projects at the same time across multiple teams that aren't full-time project teams. So that's the typical scenario, and Smartsheet's much better at that. Microsoft did Planner. They said literally in 2021, they were doing a major update of that. They never got there. They don't have dependencies. They did a brand new code set for Project for the Web, released it, and everyone was like, what is this nonsense? They started from scratch, and it was like so bare bones, it couldn't compete with any of the mid-market solutions. Then they did to-do list, which actually worked the best with Teams and had some dependencies, but like, again, the workflow. So they had these 3 different places, and when they sorry, I'm not a Microsoft partner, but when then they moved to Power Automate, they started going in a way that like really required developers to understand how to automate workflows. So with this combination of Project for the Web, Planner, and to-do list, and having it fully integrated with Teams, I believe this is going to be I believe that Microsoft will have a release this spring, which will be able to compete at minimum with Monday Asana. I'm not sure it'll be able to compete with Smartsheet for at least another year, but they should have at least enough automations to get you going, to make it worth it for all of your users to keep it within the Microsoft platform. And they haven't had that yet. So that's what I'm looking for. Sorry, I know this was a Smartsheet one, but like just from my like mid-market heart, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I want it. Give me something.
Thank you,
ladies.
Much. Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good one.